What I've done is I've taken a website called EcoWeb or Green Pages, which is a little confusing. I'm not sure why there's a name difference, but it's a great resource if you are looking for news and events and a directory of eco-friendly things all over the world. Anyway, so we've got this website. It's obviously, quite old-fashioned. I mean, there's a very nice bird, but it's a little strange that it's here, to be honest. I'm not sure what that's about. So we're going to redesign this page, right? So what I have so far is I have my typography styles. So I've got my H1, H2, etc. And you can see that I've named them. So the way that you do this is, you take any piece of text, you style it the way that you want to style it. So take any piece of text and let's say it's going to be, whatever, Mada, and it's going to be medium, and it's going to be 96, whatever the case is. You take that and you say, add to text styles, you give it a name. If you put a / in that name, it makes a folder, that whole process, right? If you've done that already, great. If you haven't, I would pause the video, get your headlines sorted out in your typography styles. Next step, very similarly, is color styles. So I have a set of color styles here, which is white. I've got a set of greens. I've got a set of yellows. So they're all pretty muted and pretty chilled out. I'm not trying to win any design awards here, just trying to show for a tutorial, right? So get your color styles set out and then we can talk. Okay, next step, we need the content. So I've got a couple of lines of introduction on the home page, and I'm not doing any content changes on the home page. I'm not doing a content strategy for them. I'm literally just taking what's here and making it look a little bit better and be responsive. So that's it. The other pieces I have is I have a bit of navigation. So I've got this sort of mega menu here. So they had this kind of menu, which I found a little bit distracting, a little bit weird. So I've rearranged this into a sort of mega menu. And the way that this works is, within this, you've got, if I hit enter, you've got frame 3, 4, 2, and 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, those divided by 12. So the space between these is 12. And if I shift enter to go up one level, you'll see the space between these is 40. And that's the power of having these wonderful nested auto layouts. You can basically create any layout within any other layout to basically automate the entire design process in a way. So let's try and do that with the entire site. Let's see how we can do that everywhere. So let's begin with the header. So we've got a header here. It's 279. And just to dig into the header, the way that I've done that is it's an auto layout and it's got space between instead of packed over here. So no matter what the size is, the right-hand side and left-hand side objects are always going to be 16 pixels to the left and 16 pixels to the right. So that's going to work really nicely. Similarly with the footer, there's an auto layout in this. So I've got an auto layout here where it's 16 pixels in between everything, and it's 24 pixels of margin, and everything is aligned left. So that way, if I stretch this component, no matter what, it's going to be the same size. So which device size should we do first? I would recommend mobile. Mobile first, right? I'm sure you've heard the term mobile first before. So mobile, we're going to do 320, which is a bit old. It's a bit of a small size, but I think probably better to do a smaller size and try to be, conservative. All right, I'm going to copy the text that I have here, as well as this little master button that I've created. So the Join Now button is going to go directly underneath the text over here. So I'm going to take these two components. The space in between them is 22. I'm going to change that to 24 because I like doing factor 2 numbers, so 8, 16, 24, 32, that kind of thing. I'm going to then hit Shift A, and Shift A is going to create an auto layout for us. So this auto layout goes down, so the first item, the second item, 24 in between. Lovely. Okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to just scrunch this down, and on my text box, I'm going to say that this text box should fill the container. So whatever the container of frame 25 is, that will fill the container. Now we do need some margin on this. So let's say it's going to be 16 over here and 16 over here. Yeah, that seems right. Actually, you know what? Let's just do 16 across the board. Great stuff. Okay, so now we've got two components and we can create a page. So let's Shift A and make an auto layout of that. So now you have this frame 26, which is going to be our iPhone or whatever you call your mobile version. Let's not start a war.
Okay.
Now mobile needs to have a base fill, so I'm going to make it white. And then we're going to add to this. So we're going to add more content here. So I've got this component built out already. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it 12 times because we have 12 different articles that we need to put in.
A few moments later.
So to add in the images, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command-Shift-K, and that's going to bring up my dialog. I'm going to select all the images, and for some reason, it always goes up from the bottom. But whatever, let's have a look. This is just an example, right? So I've got 12 images. You can see I've got 12. So if I click, and you can see as I go, it just fills it in perfectly. It fits it perfectly. A really nice way to do things. Obviously, this is just an example. If you were doing this from scratch and building out the content yourself, it would probably be a lot messier, to be honest. So now what we have is we have this object that can be stretched. Now, the way that I achieve that is that on the original, what I've done is I've said it's a fixed width, but every item within it fills the container. So this frame 7, which encompasses everything else, fills the container. This rectangle 2 fills the container, which is our image. This frame 24, which has everything else inside it, fills the container. And every subsequent layer also fills the container, at least horizontally. And that is what allows us to just stretch these as much as we like. Now what we can do is, if we press frame 26 and hit enter, it's going to select each individual post. And then we can say each individual post here must also fill the container. Now we have one single variable that we can control, which is the width of this entire container. That means if I move this container, the entire thing very smartly adjusts just by changing the width of the main container, which is fantastic. It's a really nice way to work.
Wow.
All right, so now we have this frame 26 and we're going to add it in to our layout. So we're going to just drag and we're going to see a little line that tells us this is where it's going to be dropped. And guess what? We're going to say fill the container. All right, so before we continue, let's reorganize our frames a little bit. So we've got this frame 25, which I don't think we actually need. Let's see what we can take out and make it work the same. So frame 25, if we kill that, what happens? Looks good, everything's still groovy. If we take out 26, what happens? That actually all looks fine. It's just taken away a bit of margin on the bottom there. That's perfect. I think that's fine. Now let's take this frame 28. Let's call this intro. Let's group these. So I'm going to group 6 and then 6 because we're going to use that in a bit. So I'm going to select the first 6 here. I'm going to select those and make them into articles 1. I'm going to select the second 6 and turn them into articles 2. And then the footer is called footer, and frame 27 is what all of the content is grouped as, which is fine. So we're going to call that content. Fantastic. Okay, let's move on to tablet. So we'll call this tablet. We'll make it tablet size. That'll be 768. We will then take Art1 and Art2 and we'll merge them into a new auto layout called frame 25, which will be called articles. Okay, so articles, within articles, you've got Art2 and Art1. We're going to make that a horizontal direction layout. We're going to say that it's going to fill the container. We're going to say that it goes in the middle. And within that, we're going to say Art1 and 2 are also going to fill the container. And they are also, the items within those are going to fill the container as well. So sometimes when you are changing settings on parents, it will cause the children, so the layers within, to change to a fixed width, just so that Figma can latch onto something, because it needs some kind of instruction to figure out what size the item should be. So it needs at least one defined strict instruction, and if it does not have that instruction, it will basically change your settings to give it an instruction. So if things aren't working, the best thing to do is just go through your layers and make sure that everything is filling the container. Right, so everything seems to be working perfectly at this stage. Okay, so how do we take this 2-column and turn it into a 3-column for the final desktop version? So one way to do this is to just make your 3rd column here. So we make a 3rd column. Let's also, of course, change the size. So let's go with 1440. It probably won't be full width. That's quite uncommon. So what we might do is we might say this thing has got a fixed width and it's going to be, well, let's call it a margin instead. Otherwise, we're going to have to do all sorts of other changes. So let's say it's got a 120, a 120. There we go. That looks decent. But now, see, I've got duplicates here. So what we can do is let's delete everything in this layer except for one. And then let's delete this one over here. Okay. Now we're going to have to think about this. So these 3 can go into this group, and I can see the little blue line there. And then we just need to take 2 of these and put them in this group. And there we go. Let's make this that same 120 margin. 120 is not, that's not a sort of standardized thing. That's just something I've literally just made up right now. So don't take it too seriously. And then we can just play with the paddings. We can just play with the settings, tweak them the way that we want to. Maybe this, this maybe needs a little bit more padding in general. Maybe this needs some love. You can play with it and do what you like with it until you feel like it is right. Obviously, your mobile will have thinner pads, your tablet will have sort of medium pad, and then your desktop will have quite extreme padding. You will most likely have to make a sort of larger version. So if you need to make something like a 1920 version, what I would maybe recommend in this instance is make these fixed width, but then you're going to have to make this centered and play with quite a few of the other settings. So you'll have to decide on a centered sort of maximum width. So let's say it's 1024. 1024 is way too big. Let's press Shift Enter and then center this. Then let's take this and let's say this must also be. So you see, I can't change the width right now, but if I move it like that, I can then change it. What did I say? 1440. There we go. That's beginning to take shape. It probably needs a little bit more work. That's not really working, but that's the general idea. So it's just auto layout within auto layout within auto layout within auto layout all the way down, and pretty much all the components have got full container, and that's really the magic sauce of responsive layouts. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe, please like, please share.